All right, welcome to another episode of the Critical Introvert Show. I'm your host. I go by the name of Senor Filth. I represent Sonic Boom Studios. Axiom, do you? I guess you want to introduce yourself real quick.
I'm well, I go by Axiom. I run a apparel company and do design under Axiom Paradox Apparel.
Mhm.
Um, I do, yeah, I guess apparel and graphic design. There you go.
Benevolent, do you want to introduce yourself, or it's up to you? I think he's
Oh,
asked.
sorry, I was like muted. I was talking and did not realize I was
No
muted.
problem.
Okay, caught it this time. Okay, yeah. So, hi guys. This is Benevolent A-hole. The reason for the name is because I would like to stay somewhat anonymous and would like to not have like a face associated to this account. So, the name came about too. Oh, it's kind of obvious. It's kind of I mean to be benevolent, but it doesn't matter how kind. This applies to anybody. No matter how kind you try to be, somebody's still gonna find you repulsive or annoying. So that's hence the name. So
All right.
yep.
All right.
I like it.
So today we're just gonna, I guess, do a full continued conversation on just college in general, because it seemed like there's so much material there that we can damn near do a whole season on college. But let's just start it off. um, I guess what you guys, like, how do you think the college culture from the last, maybe from 2015 on now, has really shaped today's craziness, I guess?
Well, what I've noticed, like, thank God, like I don't think remember experiencing that much of like what's going on now, but especially from 2015 to
Hmm.
now, it seems that there's been a lack of variety in terms of intellectual perspectives from different points of view.
Hmm.
And I've noticed it, like, it's just, I think it's made me really hungry to have other perspectives from different people. And I've noticed it as well because it seems that in a lot of these colleges, like specifically 2015, I've seen protesters protest right-wing conservatives like Ben Shapiro and Dinesh D'Souza. There's like so many. There's people protested over. I don't think Lawrence Southern has ever been over here either. And
I
there's like
don't think so.
she's yeah, I don't think I think she's wanted to come over here, but they've never like allowed her.
Hmm.
But there's like so many people that if you actually took the time to listen to them, they're not you probably wouldn't disagree with like you probably agree with like half of the things that they're saying. And
Yeah.
I think that's what's missing. I think longer conversations like what we're having now.
Hmm.
If you guys, I know like a lot of people have to work, but if a lot of people would just take the time at least once a week to listen to some of these voices instead of just listening to the first 15 seconds of whatever it is they're telling you about these people, and at least give them like 10 to 20 minutes of what they actually have to say,
Yeah.
because a lot of these people want to speak, but they never get a chance. They're labeled right away fascists and Nazis, and a lot of these people are actually like Dinesh D'Souza. He's actually from India,
Yeah.
and yeah, there's a variety of people that don't agree with the left wing agenda, and it seems that the radical left is like pouring over into the
Mhm.
um, to left, and it's just like they're preventing speech from being able to be spoken. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
I think that's a
everybody's
that's a
there's
good
a lot more to
start.
everybody than a 15-second soundbite.
Yeah.
Like especially a 15-second soundbite played on repeat. Like
Yeah.
you can take anything out of context, but you don't really understand a person or a point of view or even something, a concept, something that's happening in society or whatever, until you start to look into it and have a conversation about it and discuss. And it doesn't have to be a fight, just having an intellectual conversation with somebody to understand, like, it's okay to be wrong. I never said I was right about everything, you know, like I can certainly be wrong about a lot of things, but
Yeah.
Having a mind that's open enough to accept that there's other views and appreciate that other views are really necessary. You really just don't want to be hearing the same thing all the time.
Mhm.
I think you know, I've been out of school for a while, so I have not been in school since, you know, way before 2015. But I do know that a lot of the curriculums have changed and a lot of things have been happening in education that really shouldn't be. Like education is about learning, not about brainwashing, you know.
Yeah.
You should be learning more about the world and different ideas and everything. And I think it does create a much more emotional person now being involved in the school system.
Yeah.
Public education even, but going into college and stuff now, you've got such a crazy environment. And you all kind of touched on that just a little bit in the last episode too. Like Weiss was talking about how his whoever the kid was that was staying with him had come back
his son.
from,
Yeah.
there you go, had come back from college, and it was just a much more emotional response to things. And it
Mhm.
made me think about when I went to college. I'm like, yeah, I did have kind of a more emotional response to things when I came back from college. And I think some of that was also being able to be free
Mhm.
from my parents. And not that I was like locked away or anything, but you grow up in a certain environment your whole life, and then suddenly you're introduced to all these different ideas and maybe things that you agree with, or maybe you're told you should agree with. So like coming back into that environment where it felt like, you know, I'm still in high school or something, you know. And I think that's sort of like I think kind of everybody goes through that, like going back home. It's just like, oh, I could never live with my parents again. Like, because you always kind of clash with your parents here and there. But
Yeah.
I do remember kind of being a little bit more emotional too. And I mean, it's been happening for a while.
Yeah.
Didn't just start in 2015. It's definitely something that I could see signs of people wanting you to be and think and feel a certain way
Mhm.
when I think back to elementary school. I mean, in elementary school, like I don't remember them ever saying that guns were evil, but there was sure a lot of hinting at it.
Yeah.
And like they showed us a video, which we had to have had like a parental slip to sign off on this, because it was definitely gory, but it was like screenshots of like what it looked like if you got shot or something, you know. And like we're in elementary school,
Yeah.
like but it was just like, and this is what happens when this kid found his dad's gun and then was
Mhm.
playing with it and stuff. And like yes, they're not toys.
Yeah.
They are dangerous, they are weapons, but instead of teaching them to be afraid of them and to want to get rid of them, and they're dangerous, they're just going to go off on their own,
Mhm.
there should be more education with that. And so like, you know, proper handling, how do you not shoot somebody, you know, like why shouldn't you pick it up and play with it, and different things. And I think that the lack of actual education with information people are receiving is a huge
Yeah.
problem, because if you don't know why or how or whatever to do something right, then just
Yeah.
blatant, you know, don't touch that. Why? Because it's hot. Okay.
Because it's racist or something.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I agree with that. I think there's like a lack of teaching in economics and like math and statistics and
Definitely economics, because
economics. Yeah.
goddamn.
Yes. But
See, that's one of the things.
economics really hasn't been well taught for a long time. Like
Yeah.
nobody's been preparing people for the real world.
Yeah. My brother, he's like an econ dork, and
Mhm.
I just ask him just basic questions, and he'll tell me just talking to just adults that are older than him, just some of the just ridiculous things that they tell him, and it's like, yeah, like he's almost like blown away with some of
Yeah.
like the retarded shit that he
Yeah.
hears adults saying.
Like that's really something that they should be teaching in
Oh,
high
yeah.
school
Yeah.
is economic, like how to be responsible with your money. Like what happens when you have a credit card? All right, all of these things happen, and how to save money and how to budget. Because
Hmm.
let's face it, when you get out of high school, although you might start making $15 an hour now, but
Yeah.
when you get out of high school, you're probably not going to have a very good paying job.
Yeah.
You got to survive on that. So how
Yeah.
do you do that?
Yeah. Exactly. Like I'll be honest, like that's not my strength, but I can acknowledge that that's like a really important thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And especially when you have a lot of these philosophers and all these allegedly intellectuals out there speaking their philosophy, that's something that's very rarely tested because a lot of people are not familiar with economics. If you don't understand the numbers, if you can't really put it like empirical, like testing to a
Mhm.
subject, whether this work based off of these philosophical teachings, if you
Mhm.
can't put it to test, like on the basis of like economically, whether it worked or not, then some philosopher can just say, oh, this and that,
Yeah.
it's so much prettier on the other side. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, but like the numbers like say otherwise. Like, yeah, like
Yeah.
Now math
like
is racist, so I mean,
yeah, like
I
for
just
yeah.
Well, I mean, everyone knows that.
Every like the only objective truth, like one of the few objective truths out there is that economy like rules, or like the numbers don't lie. Like
Yeah.
you can't really say racism exists, but like in terms of like opportunities, like if racism was as bad as we think, you wouldn't have a bunch of rappers that are of African American descent, or like all these basketball players like that's not like, I mean, that's because they work their butt off,
Yeah.
yeah,
and they're able to do, they're just good at what they do, is like,
right.
and that's when, because they bring more people, there's a bigger attendance with them playing because they're just a lot more impressive than other people that want to play. Like I would want to play, like, but I'm not tall enough, I'm not good enough. It's just,
Yeah.
Not
it's like
black
it's
enough.
simple economics. The simple economics is just like, okay, we're gonna hire you because you can play basketball. We don't care about the color of your skin. The account. But my point is that, because I'm using a really lame example because I'm not good with economics, is that if you can play basketball and you can drive people to come and pay for tickets and come and play basketball, and people want to see you, I don't care what you look like, what color your skin is. If you can make me money, you're
Mhm.
hired. And that's a problem. People can't read statistics either. I'm not great at reading them
Yeah.
because they can be manipulated as well.
Yeah.
Right.
But
It's amazing too, because I hear so many people say, "Well, I just saw a statistic that this," and I hear the claim that they're trying to prove, and I'm like, that there's no statistic that would prove that. What are you trying to claim? I guess
Yeah.
like the wage gap and shit like that, and
Yeah.
yeah.
There are a
yeah,
lot of factors that go into wage gaps.
yeah. People don't realize the importance of like factors.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a male doctor is probably going to make more than a female teacher, for
Yeah.
instance.
Well, that's the other thing too about college, is
Mhm.
that a lot of these subjects that some of these kids indulge into, or like go into, or like they take these classes like in liberal lesbian ideology, or these Chicano studies, or classes that are in the end are not going to pay off.
Yeah.
But then they come out of school taking all those classes, and they feel entitled or privileged to go out there and make like $50,000, $60,000 a year, or like $100,000 a year, and you don't know anything. It's like,
But they know that capitalism is evil.
exactly. It's like,
Yes.
Yeah.
I never understood that. Like then
I don't know either.
it's like,
Well, I can't remember what it was I was watching or reading, but it was they were talking about how when you come out of school, of course you think capitalism is evil and socialism and essentially communism or whatever is the way to go, because you're not prepared for anything
Mhm.
with BS classes. And you can take BS classes in college, like that's fine, but that shouldn't be like the core of your curriculum. Like you should be taking something that you can do something with.
Yeah.
And I mean, even with that said, like you can still graduate doing the degree that seems, you know, I mean, I guess you can take it or leave it. I have an art degree, but
Yeah, me
not
too.
everybody does what they went to school for either. Things in life change later, and not everybody continues to do what they went to school for.
Yeah. I had the weird luxury of like sort of I started following like the weird antics of college like around 2015, and I went to college like a little like 2016 and in my late 20s. So I just kind of went in kind of uh, like there was a belief in the air that like, oh, this is just minimal, this craziness isn't really that bad. And
Mhm.
I went to a really small, kind of unheard of school in California, and I kind of figured that like I would probably maybe see a little bit of it, but and it would be nothing. But like even at that little school, I saw a whole bunch of just weird, questionable things.
Yeah.
A lot of like uh, uh like a lot of like Marxism and postmodernism was being pushed on kids, and even at the time I was sort of starting to look into this kind of shit, just as more just a hobby, because I don't know, I just like looking into weird things. I'm just like that. And like around this time.
Oh,
Hmm?
we're frozen.
uh,
Yeah.
did I freeze?
No, you seem okay.
Okay.
He sounded
um
like a robot.
okay. But yeah, I just kind of went into it and just noticing a lot of like, just like in one of my first classes there was a kid that was like really heavy into Marxism, and like he would to get into weird debates with people about like trying to like debate the meaning of things and shit like that. And at the time I wouldn't like jump in and debate or anything. I would just mainly just be in the back of the class doodling or whatever.
Mhm.
But now like when I'm seeing like all like after the George Floyd shit, like all like white supremacy was posted everywhere on Facebook and shit like that. I was just watching like, holy shit, that's the stuff that I remember wacky, crazy people would like talk about.
Yeah.
And those people are fucking crazy. And this shit's becoming like trendy and mainstream on a citywide level. This isn't good, you know?
No. Yeah, you get so many people thinking that way, and I mean that's ultimately what they want to have happen. You
Hmm.
convince everybody a certain way is the right way to go, then there's a lot less resistance along the way.
Yeah. It was amazing me too that like they were just there was so much of just one narrow point of view being pushed like
Mhm.
in these kids. And you brought up the idea of like, I think that it has to do something with like this sort of like, I'm with amongst my own peers kind of shit, like I'm away from my parents kind of thing. So
Yeah.
there's this weird like kind of like rebelliousness, but
Mhm.
you kind of need like that sort of parent figure to be like, just to give you a smack in the head and be like, you're
Yeah.
what you're saying is just stupid, and there's a reason.
Yeah.
And even the teachers there, like it seemed much more like teachers there were trying to be like hip and cool and young rather than you know be a little bit more stricter and stuff like that. And
Yeah. To actually be like adult role models.
yeah, like yeah, so many teachers just like try to be hip and young. And I don't think for like higher education that's a very good thing. You need like dickhead teachers to like wise you up,
Yeah.
you know?
My sculpture teacher was, he struck fear in people's eyes.
Yeah.
But he was kind of a teddy bear, but that's how he came across. Like people like feared him when they first met him.
Yeah.
But he was good. He was also the only one in the art department that called you by your last name,
Yeah.
and you had to call him by his last name. But everybody, all the other teachers were by their first name, and you were just your first name to everybody else. But it sounded very like military when you went in.
Yeah.
Like I remember I think it's the first, maybe in the very first day of class with this guy and this woman. She was a non-traditional student. She was probably, I mean, I was 19, 20 or something like that when I was in this class. And she was in maybe her 30s. And she spilled her Coke on the table. And she panicked. She ripped off the cardigan that she had on, and she like sopped it up really fast. That's the kind of teacher you need. Everybody is just afraid.
How was he like with grading? Was he pretty hard or?
He was hard. I think I always appreciated it because it made you want to work harder, so you didn't lose those points, And like your very first assignment is creating this perfect cube out of foam core, and that's all you're doing is you're just cutting pieces of foam core and you're gluing them together, and then you present them to him.
Yeah.
And he would like hold them up to the class and be like, he'd examine like every little edge and everything, and he'd measure all the sides and everything. And you had like, your exacto skips just a little bit or something, and you lose a point. And so you were always like very aware when he was doing any sort of grading and stuff. But I think that sort of quality is something that you want to strive for. Like you shouldn't be able to just get by with half-assed stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so many classes I took in college, like I would say like maybe 2/3 of them were just like, you just show up and you get a passing grade kind of thing. Yeah, and there were some classes that were a little bit more difficult, and I did, bust my ass in those, but the majority of them were just kind of pointless in a weird way. And you back?
Yeah, I'm back, I think.
Yeah,
you can hear me?
You sound much better now.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. And you were talking, right, Mr. Senor?
Yeah. I was just talking about like that I went to school like during the time like 2015.
You were noticing the Marxist tendencies that the students were having, right?
Yeah, and I was just noticing a lot of like just attitude that they had. They were really like snarky and disrespectful to like whatever the other side of anything was. And yeah, and like I've always been kind of following kind of cultural politics for probably since like my 20s, just because I mainly just thought it was really interesting and kind of just.
Well, it's so easy for it to creep in because I could have been like a victim to it too, because I've been like moderate most of my life, and especially like in college I was like more moderate, because like in music you listen to it. I mean, there's like a lot of symbols like I grew up listening to a lot of ska and punk, but even in that there's like a lot of Marxism ideas out there. There's a lot of punk, a lot of ska bands. They like to sport the little red, like the little star, the little socialist star. It's like so much of that sort of Marxist like ideas where they seem kind of like innocent, but I mean, if you look at history, like a lot of people forgot history. It's not they kind of romance it into something that it's not, and that's the problem. A lot of these bands that I grew up with, I'm like, damn, man, like it's like they pushed it fairly hard. And I'm like, I'm surprised I didn't get sucked into it too.
I know like Rage Against Machine is super like,
Yeah, exactly. I used to love I still like love Rage Against the Machine, but I mean, I don't agree on that side of what they, I'm not that extreme. I mean, fight against the system, but not like destroy the system and then give power to the government. Because I mean, if you destroy the system completely, I mean, who's going to like pick up the pieces? It's going to be like the government. Everything's going to get get centralized, and
Yeah.
we're going to be slaves to the system. It's so counter to what it is that
Yeah.
allegedly they're fighting for.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of weird that they're like, so, eat the rich, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you guys know you guys are making millions making music, right?
Yeah.
That's it's so
Shouldn't you-
funny how quick people are to hate people who make money.
Yeah.
We were talking about this at home, I think even yesterday.
Hmm.
I was talking with my husband and about how everybody's hating on all these billionaires and stuff, and it's millionaires who are hating on the billionaires.
Yeah.
Like, is this a jealousy thing or
Yeah.
But like, I have no problem with a billionaire. No problem if they work for their money. Like,
Yeah. Well, the problem is that there is sort of like what you call like sort of like crony capitalism.
Yeah.
But that's like more like the capitalism that works with government, the one where they kind of work
Yeah.
together. That's the one book that I'm currently reading, where like some of these bigger corporations, they work with the government, and because the government sort of subsidizes them, and like a lot of these big corporations over historically have been bailed out by the government. The government doesn't want them to fail because
Mhm.
it's sort of like a system, like a never-ending system where they're just taking our money, the value that we put out there. Like some of these smaller business people, the farmers, the people that actually do something of value, because the government has nothing of value to give us. All they do is create
Yeah.
monopoly money, this fake money from the Federal Reserve, and then they take this fake money and they from us that we're using because we're playing the game too, and then they're just spreading it out to everybody. But like over time, it creates inflation, and that's what a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah.
Like some of the people I've argued with through Messenger because nobody wants to talk to me, but like through Messenger, they'll be like, well, if like stupid things like mask work, man, like I got COVID-19, but like mask work. And then they'll say something like, well, if the government gave us money for like the next like few months, like we'll be fine. Like, why in the hell do you want the government to give you anything? Like if they
Yeah.
just let the country open up, everything would come around eventually.
Yeah.
Because I
it'll
mean,
just fall back into place. Yeah.
all it does is just the prices aren't increasing. What's happening is that the dollar is getting devalued. It is just like losing value. It's not going to have any value. It's because when there's more paper money out there than there is goods and services out there, it's like, why do I even need paper if like I can't even like, I mean, it's going to get to a point where it's like, do you want like an apple or do you want like this piece of paper?
Yeah, we need to go back to the barter system because
Yeah, we're like on the fiat, and like the only reason we use it is because it's legal tendered. So it's like we're forced to use it, to play with it, and
I mean,
use
it's
it.
all like it's all magical. That's not the right word. It's all just like whatever we decide that we say that it's worth. There's no value.
Yeah, right now there's no value. It's not even backed up by
I
gold.
can't eat that if nobody's got money. If nobody's making food, or like if food doesn't exist and I need to buy food and I have paper money, and like it's just it doesn't do anything for me.
Well, that's what they did like back in the day, like historically, like back in the day when they were actually using like gold and silver for bargaining and to buy stuff. They actually, I forget what it's called, like they would like split the coins because they thought like, well, if we split the coin, like, well, it had like each coin had like a X amount of value. But what they started doing was that they started like shaving the coins into like smaller coins, thinking, oh, well, there's more coins and everybody's like wealthier and we can buy more stuff. It's like, but on the contrary, that's like counter like productive, because if you have all these coins, but then you have all these coins, but you only have like 2 chickens or 3 chickens, like, oh shit, like I'm gonna have to like, instead of using 1 coin to buy a chicken, now I have to use like 500 coins, whatever it is that they inflated that fake currency. But even then, back then, like even like silver and gold, like when they were using that still had like some kind of intrinsic, like some kind of value.
Yeah.
But now it's like we're just using like monopoly money.
Well,
It's
silver
like no
and
one.
gold
Yeah,
now still has a lot of value.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. A
Something that
gold.
you can invest in.
I'm gonna
But
invest. I'm gonna definitely invest in some gold soon.
they have some interesting, I don't know if you've looked into any of it, but they have I think there's a couple places that do it where you basically you decide how much you can put toward it,
Mm-hmm.
and you invest a certain amount of money per month or whatever. Think of it as like Netflix or something. And eventually when you have accumulated enough money, it turns into a certain size amount of gold.
Mm.
And then you can either keep it with them or you can cash it out, and
Yeah.
they will send you the actual physical piece of gold.
Hmm.
So it's interesting because you don't, it's not like, oh, I need like thousands of dollars to buy like an ounce of gold or something like
Yeah.
that, but like you can just put $50 a month or something, you know, like
Yeah, I did notice in college, like just the idea of like entrepreneurs was very like, kind of looked down upon for some reason. Like there was this weird kind of resentment or jealousy towards people that just
working.
wanted to work and make money. Like if you
Yeah.
didn't like if you were in the art field, like I was an art major, and the idea that I just wanted to make art just to sell and make goofy shit, but not
Mhm.
like, make art to like be a activist or something like that. That was
Right.
weirdly looked down upon in a weird way.
Yes, I had the same problem
Mm-hmm.
because I was in the whole graphic design field.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of flack from the fine artists, even though I do have a BFA. It is in fine art.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was probably one of the reasons why it made them mad too. But like, you
Mm-hmm.
were a painting major or a sculpture major or something like that, like metal smithing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's like because I decided to get into an art field that I could potentially make money in
Mm-hmm.
before I die, like I was frowned upon.
Yeah.
I was a traitor in the art department.
Yeah, I remember just getting a lot of that, and it was weird. Like I'm trying to like tell the kids like, you guys are here because you want to like just have a career being creating stuff. Like
Right.
that's okay. It's okay to just want
That
to.
and like
Yeah.
ultimately when you make a decision to go to college, you're really going to college to be successful
Mm-hmm.
working in life. Like that's the ultimate goal in getting more education. It's not
Mm-hmm.
to just get handouts from the government. You
Yeah.
you you know, making the decision to go to college and actually try to be something means that you want to do something with yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
it's strange that college is a place that costs thousands and thousands of dollars. It's so expensive to go to college, especially if you go into one that is a specific interest, like
Mm-hmm.
you go to an art academy instead of just a state college or something.
Yeah.
Um, like just it's so much money, and it's nearly impossible to recoup that money, even if you are getting into something that can make money. But it's
Yeah.
amazing that they want to take so much money from people and then not set them up, pump them full of all this information that is just false,
Mm-hmm.
not give them the whole big picture, make them feel a certain way about life and people and existence, set them out into the world,
Yeah.
like it's not about becoming a successful human that's functional in society. It's about ripping apart society when you come out of school now. It's a completely different mindset. And like, of course, you want the government to help you out and everything if you're not prepared to do anything in life.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of like hurt us too. Like over time, is that the more like the government gets involved in like helping, allegedly helping us, is that we sort of like become like we stop caring. It's like we lose that sort of connection that we have with each other,
Mm-hmm.
because I can see like if the government wasn't so involved and like was sending out these $1,000 checks and these like welfare and stuff, like I can see how a lot of people would have a lot more empathy, and like if they were able to help, there'd be a lot more people actually giving back.
Mhm.
But because there's so many people like on all these Section 8, all these like programs, like they don't need, like a lot of them don't even need, there's like all these programs, they don't, so there's like a disconnection.
Right.
So it's just like tearing down at society. And I agree, people, we should help the less fortunate, but the government is just doing a terrible job. And I mean, historically, it's just it's gotten
Well-
worse. Like after like the Civil Rights Act, like
Mhm.
that's another good book.
Yep.
If you're an artist and don't know much about economics, pick up a book on Thomas Sowell. Like he puts all these facts and statistics, and he puts all these tests out there, like that say otherwise. I mean, the opposite of what they're saying. Like the Civil Rights Act, like everything got worse after the Civil Rights Act, after
Yeah.
like
Yep.
the welfare state, like everything was a lot better. And like a lot of especially in the Black community,
Yeah.
the Black community actually suffered a lot more. Like
Mhm.
afterwards, there was like a disintegration of like the family unit.
Yeah.
There was like a lot more Black families together before that,
Yeah.
and actually even more successful as well.
Yep.
Versus
There was
now,
Yeah.
it's just
a lot more Black-owned businesses. They were more
Mhm.
successful. Unemployment percentages, I believe, at one point, and I could be wrong on this, but I believe at one point
Yeah.
their unemployment was lower than whites.
I think so. Like I think I
too.
read that too. Like,
Yeah.
but that's something you guys, whoever is watching, if you're watching, and if you don't want to read a book, there's like a bunch of videos out there on Thomas Sowell. But I can guarantee, if you spend at least 10 to 20 minutes listening to this guy,
Yeah.
you're gonna want to get his book.
Yeah,
And he
has
actually has like a bunch
really
of books.
fantastic
He has a bunch of. I have a couple
Yeah,
of
he
his
does.
books, but you're gonna want to get his book. So I'm
And
endorsing Thomas Sowell.
and the
If
strange
you
thing
want- if
about
you want like
the strange thing about Thomas Sowell is you could find clips of him from like the 70s, and like he's battling people that like say SJW-ness now, like the same kind of words and positions.
Yeah.
He was destroying them back in the day. That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
yeah, like when he was young, like he was so smooth, man. Like and
Yeah.
like his mind was so agile back then, just like blah, 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 bah. Like damn, like this guy would just knock him out. Like now he's like, he seems like he's a little slower, a little bit like more like he's just so fed up with like, because he's he's answered these questions like so many times over the years.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Yeah.
I forget how old he's, like almost 80 or
He's up there.
90. He's up there. I mean, he's still alive. And
He used
yeah.
to be a Marxist too.
And
Yes.
exactly. And that's
Yep.
the fascinating thing. Like if you
Yep.
read his autobiography, I'm trying to remember like which one it is, but that's one of the books that I have from him, is that he was actually a Marxist.
Mhm.
And if you read that whole autobiography, it'll make sense because you'll see his sort of like journey. You'll understand, like, because I can understand like how people can fall into that, like how you can say, oh, well, I'm not like really Marxist. I just like some of the ideas, but
Mhm.
Marxism is just completely, it does not bring anything to the table. All that it's doing is indoctrinating people into this sort of like just hatred and mentality to deconstruct everything that you've been taught, everything like
Mhm.
from values to capitalism to all these things that have worked in the past, to tear them down just so you can usher in like this new age of communism or socialism. Like, and that's when the government has all the control. Like a few people have the control. That's when all these like
Mhm.
that's why Bezos, you're kissing his butt now,
Yeah.
because all you Marxists out there, you guys complain, but then you're making this guy rich. And then the people that actually are suffering right now are all these small businesses.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
remember that, like all these small businesses, like they're capitalists too, but they're the ones that we should care about. And instead of like getting the big guy like Bezos and Zuckerberg, all these other like business people, like we're actually hurting
Mhm.
the small business. And that those are the people that actually bring value to the world, not the government, because the government is just playing this con game for the longest time.
They take away your rights and then hand them back to you little by little and pretend that they've done you a great service,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
if they even give them back to you.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed though when I was in college is like it was kind of a weird pattern that like the more kind of SJWE the artist was, the worse their art was. It's kind of
Well, if you
something.
feel entitled, then you're just gonna do whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah. And there was even some that were talented, but they were starting to get SJWE,
Mhm.
and I can notice like the quality of the work is getting a little crappy, and
That's
I just
interesting.
I was just hoping I hoped like that they did away with that and they're just continuing on their craft because like there were some talented kids, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
SJW shit kicks in. You're
Well, it
just
seemed that it's rewarded. That's why, like all these
yeah.
handicaps. I mean, not to make fun of real people that have handicaps, but especially I don't know if you guys are listening again. Another good channel to check out, Fleckas, and also Slightly Offensive with I
Yeah,
think his name is Elijah Schaefer.
yeah,
Those guys really like are on the ground covering things, and one of the things that they cover is like because they're having all these interactions with people is that the problem with a lot of these Marxists is that since they're so they're deconstructing society, they're indulging in like their own sort of like they want to become handicapped. They're like doing like this disabled Olympics. Like they're trying
yeah,
to compete to see who has the most uh shortcomings. Like, oh,
I'm more of a
I'm
victim than
gay
you
and
are.
I have
yeah,
like one eye and I have like one good hip and none of this and like I'm all like I'm entitled like to this and that. Like it's like why would you be proud of that? Or like
yeah.
what would you
It was rare to like hear a student like just congratulate themselves. You know what I mean? Like just give themselves props like that. It was odd.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, that's what they're also doing, like in competitive sports. That's what I was saying, like in the last channel. Is like tribalism is bad when it
Mhm.
comes like to politics because then it's just you have like that bullseye and you become emotional and you just don't think clearly. But I think competition, like in competitive sports, is a good thing because it sort of like shows you that competitive spirit, like that you would also translate in the workplace
Mhm.
Yeah.
and realize that there's like a hierarchy in society. It's like you have to work your butt off in order
Yeah.
to like
Competition is
move
healthy
move
and
up and be part of
necessary.
that pyramid. And but nowadays with organized sports, um, everybody gets like a trophy. Everybody gets a trophy. If everybody's okay, everybody's okay. It doesn't matter if you lose or
Yeah.
you win. Heck no. It's like, well, what's the point? What's the point? And it's like,
Right.
and then now with the whole thing where they're having men compete, or I guess men that identify as women compete in women's sport, then
Yeah.
it's just like turning that sport upside down. It's just like destroying it. And I feel sorry for women out there. It's like women are also really good at different things, but I mean, you can't compete with like a man, like in terms of like strength.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
can't in terms of
Men
strength,
pound
you're
for
gonna get
pounder.
gonna get blown up.
Yeah, like men pound for pound are stronger
Yeah,
than women, just physically, genetically. Like
And more
yeah.
competitive
sucks
too.
I
as a
mean,
female to like it'd be like, yeah, no, I am technically the weaker sex, but not really. But yes,
Yeah.
if we have weightlifting or something, like
I was watching What's Love Got to Do with It, the Ike and Tina movie,
Mhm.
and yeah, there's no way that like there's a reason Ike was beating the hell out of her because he's a dude. He has more power. It's just he has more physical power,
Right.
and that's just the reality of it. Like,
There's a small percentage of females that can really compete with
yeah, yeah,
a strong male, and
but
they
the
have to work
average, yeah,
like 5 times harder to get there because it's not easy for women to build that kind of muscle and stuff. But
yeah,
yeah, like you just when you start allowing you know biological males to compete in
hmm,
women's fields, you create less like why should that person try very hard if he can easily blow all of them out of the water? Like
yeah,
obviously he's going to go home with the gold. Like if we're looking at like Olympic weightlifting, for instance.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that story.
Which one?
Um,
Oh, the one that came out recently, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And I think she's competing in is it Australia or New Zealand or something like that? Or I don't remember. Like they're not officially in, but if they completely get pushed through into the Olympics, like the 43-year-old biological male competing against biological females in the Olympics doesn't
What?
seem real fair.
Yeah. Wouldn't
Uh,
that just obliterate women's competition in general, like in the
Yeah,
future?
they're
Like if the
faster, stronger.
yeah. Like if the WNBA, like I don't know if they're doing this. I don't know anything about it, but if they did start it now, within 5 years, like it'll just be dudes with
well,
wigs just
Yeah.
handling, you know?
Yep.
well, what's gonna happen? Like if you kind of like look at it, like what's happening is like over time, like what's gonna happen is that women are not gonna compete in sports anymore, and over time, women are gonna become like less healthier and less athletic, and then they're gonna be less attractive or attractive to men, and men are gonna be like, I don't know, she kind of looks like not so good, or she's gonna either that or she's gonna like be more she's gonna be lesbian, or it's just a way to just destroy gender. Eventually we're not gonna be attracted to girls because they're either gonna be a lesbian and look like a guy, or they're just gonna be so out of shape because they're like, I don't need to compete in sports, like what's the point? And they're just gonna, it's just
Or you've been told since you were young that
I
you
just-
shouldn't be attracted, and nobody is male or female, and
Mhm.
nothing biological is
Yeah.
normal. And
well, yeah, it's gonna get to a point where everybody just looks the same. Everybody's gonna have the same shaved head, and I think that's what happened with like aliens. Like maybe we're aliens are humans from the future or something. Like that's why they keep coming back. What are you guys doing? Stop doing that. This is your future. Look at me. Look at. I don't
Yeah.
know.
That's gonna be kind of interesting. Like I don't know, 30 years from now, like kids are gonna be like a boy is gonna like look at another boy playing basketball and just think, oh, that's so gay of him to do that or something like that.
Yeah.
It's I wonder if the people that push this kind of shit, like, do they realize like the
long-term
future?
psychological
Yeah,
effects.
like, do they realize that what it could happen, what it could lead to? Like,
Right. I don't think that they're thinking about that other than, I mean, I feel like parents who are giving kids this sort of information and enforcing it and stuff
mhm,
probably actually feel like that's what they should be doing.
mhm,
You know, like obviously they believe in it if this is what they're teaching their kids.
yeah,
But I mean, there's some real messed up stuff that's going on. But I mean, I guess if you're
Well,
teaching your child something, then you probably believe in it. At least in my mind, that's how that works. I don't have kids.
yeah,
well, what it is too is that we're sort of like gaslit in that sense that it may seem that there's like a lot of like normal everyday like Americans like going through these like encouraging kids to like, oh yeah, go ahead, like you can take these hormone pills or whatever.
mhm,
Mhm.
But it's what it is actually a lot of them are like actors, either like actors on the news, or actors like, because a lot of the actors are like the ones that are pushing these ideas. Like what's her name? The I used to have a crush on that girl. Now she has like short hair.
Which
What's her
one?
name? She was on that one movie. I think kind of like a dude.
Is-
What's the name? She's blonde. She used to date the one guy from Third Eye Blind. I can't think of her.
Blind? I
She
wouldn't
just
know.
recently has short hair.
Not Reese.
Reese Witherspoon?
No. That's a different one.
I was thinking Charlize Theron. But...
There you go, Charlize Theron.
Oh,
She
okay.
used to date the guy from Third Eye Blind. But yeah,
Oh
she
yeah,
was pushing it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
She
I
was
don't
like,
She's
think
oh
I knew
yeah.
that about her.
Yeah, and there's like a few other actors I can't think of their names, but I know she was doing it, and she was like all proud, and
Mhm.
so. But
Oh, yeah.
I don't really think like your average person like really wants that for their kids, And if they do, it's like, what's the point of being a parent if you're not going to set boundaries? I
Mhm.
mean, if you don't let them like drink alcohol at a young age, or like let them do like, there's all these different things that they can't do, but then like choose their sex at such a young age.
Yeah.
Little
Right.
kids,
Like
yeah,
kids make up stuff all the time. Like
yeah. Let
and
them
it's not that
grow up.
yeah, like it's not that they can't eventually decide, either way. Like if they do decide that they need to switch genders as an adult, then that's up to them or whatever. But to be forcing that kind of thought and information on such a young child, it just confuses them,
Yeah.
like and it's not that you should shun them if they are acting or asking questions or whatever in a certain way. Like you shouldn't necessarily hide information from them, but to
Mhm.
supply them with excess information about things that, like, they shouldn't be worried about what sex they are. They're not anywhere close to puberty. They just need to figure out how to do everyday things as a
Mhm.
child, like be a kid, play with other kids, our
Yeah.
president allows,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
learn how to be a functional human being.
Yeah, let them like
A-
interact with
and
people first.
yeah,
Mhm.
like that's a part of growing up, and to have such an adult mindset pushed on such a small child.
Yeah, it's like, what do you say? Oh, you want to be a girl? Yeah, let's go for that. Like,
Yeah, today
Yeah.
I'm a puppy dog. All
yeah.
right, you are now a puppy dog.
Yeah. There's something weird about like the over encouragement of this shit. It's like when they push like the trans shit, because like, oh, my son said he liked the boy, so like they kind of overdo it. Like you see that show I Am Jazz or whatever the hell it's called. You heard of it? It's like some
I saw it a really long time ago.
Yeah, yeah, but like the parents are like a little bit overly like, I don't know, it's even enthusiastic about it in a weird way. And
Mhm.
I was thinking it's like it'd be like if my parents caught me watching like Asian porn, Asian anal porn, and instead of being like smacking me in the head, they're just like encouraging and like, "Oh,
I
look,
don't know.
son,
It's
I got
Let's
you more
explore this
porn."
more.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like yeah, it's weird because I've noticed it too. It's like they're like getting off from it. It's so weird. It's like
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
vicariously living through the kids. Like, oh, you want to be this and that. Oh, I'm gonna dress you this way. I'm like, calm down. What's wrong with you? It's like let the
Yeah,
kid be himself and then to sort of guide him, but don't like impose your ideas on him or her.
letting your kid choose their gender.
Yeah, that's just weird. Like,
It's strange. Like and like I said, like it's important that you don't, you know, be mean to the kid about it. If you don't agree with maybe them deciding they want to be straight, or
Yeah.
yeah.
deciding that they want to be a woman instead, or a girl instead of a boy, or whatever, like it's not about telling them that's a wrong way to think.
Hmm.
It's just not pushing them to be a certain way.
Yeah.
It's responsible parenting.
Well, like I know like Mario Lopez, like he was talking about that like in the Candace Owens show, like a
Yeah,
while
he,
Yeah,
back.
yeah, he got
yeah,
in
I
And
trouble
watched
for
he
I
was
that
watched
too,
speaking
that
right?
against
interview.
it, but yeah, he got so much blowback after that.
Mhm.
And then he had to apologize. And that's the problem. Like when you
Yeah.
apologize over something that you believe in, it's like you don't agree with these things, this propaganda that you're, it's like you have to think about the kids. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, you don't have to apologize. You're doing it, you're saying this because it's not right. It's like you're
Yeah.
just letting the mob rule. And
Mhm.
What's the worst thing that can happen if like you just don't apologize? I
I
mean,
mean, I guess if you're a celebrity, you lose your following and
Mhm.
yeah, there's all.
contracts and your money, and especially with I mean, I think the like the entertainment industry and stuff is pretty left leaning.
You
Um,
don't say.
so if you start to disagree with them any, then you're gonna lose everything.
Yeah.
It's true.
Uh.
Did
Yeah,
we
you
lose
got.
you?
No, no, no. I would just turn off my camera for a second. having some camera issues, but it's all right. Um, did you guys have any like? I guess you guys didn't really go to college because when I was there, because I tell you, the thing that was super just awesome was Trump's inauguration during that time, going to school.
Oh,
Just
yeah, I
like,
definitely wasn't in school for that.
oh my God, it was something just wonderful to behold. Like if I would like, God, if I had like $1 for every time I heard someone say like, "Oh my God, if he's like elected, I'm gonna like move to Canada or whatever." Like every I would have been fucking I'd have been fucking Jeff Zuckerberg by now. I swear to God.
Yeah, that's what I never understood is that people were afraid of him and like they're afraid, oh, he's gonna do this and do that. And he
Right.
never did any of these things that people accused him of. It's like
Mhm.
you're already saying he's gonna do this and do that, and like
Yeah.
is it just
He was attacked before he was even, you know,
yeah, like I didn't
inaugurated,
vote.
and
Yeah, I didn't vote for him, but I never understood. It's like why is there so much like opposition? Like it didn't make any sense. Like he hasn't done anything yet.
right.
He barely became president, and
Yeah,
like oh, there's
I
all
didn't
this.
understand why it was such a severe
Yeah,
backlash against him becoming president
and then like
when
so
he didn't even have a chance to mess anything up yet, you know, like
Yeah.
yeah.
he hadn't even been in office yet, and they're like, oh, he's destroying the nation. What the hell?
I think
Yeah.
if you I think if like the media didn't really jump on him, I think he would have just kind of fizzled out and no one would have talked about him. And I,
Yeah. Well, I think
Right, like
he sort
it
of
wouldn't
like
be as we wouldn't be as separated now as we are.
yeah, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, like I really like when he was first announced, I generally thought like, yeah, he's probably just gonna, at the most like make it to like one of the debates and then it'll just fizzle out and
Right,
it'll probably
like
be
most
Cruz or
presidents.
something. Yeah, yeah. But like I think because they jumped on him so hard, it just
Mhm.
like the whole like rapist thing that everybody jumped on, like
well,
it exposed so much like bullshit on the other
exactly,
side.
yeah, because
Yeah.
I was like a critical introvert like back then, like thinking, okay, well,
Mhm.
I didn't vote for him. I don't really like the guy, but I mean, why are they saying this? I'm like, okay, I'm kind of like watching from the outside. I'm watching people on Facebook, and I think that was like the year I think I deleted Facebook just because it was so
Mhm.
one-sided. I'm like,
Oh
okay,
yeah,
I
it
didn't
was
vote for
awful.
him. I don't like him, but
Mhm.
okay, like, where's the proof that he's a rapist or and then like a few months later, like the whole Russia collusion, you keep hearing Russia collusion. Well, what's this
Yeah,
Russia collusion? I don't get it. Just repeat, repeat, repeat. Okay. He's a bad guy.
exactly.
Okay, but show me the proof. Like
Right.
I was very objective. I'm okay, like I don't like the guy. Okay, well, give me a good reason not to like him. I'm just like okay, news, give me it's just like so anticlimactic, and everybody goes, oh my god, like he's so evil. I'm like, okay, like we haven't seen anything.
Right.
Mhm.
They're accusing him of all this stuff, but I haven't seen anything. And then that's how I
Well,
found out about him, like what he was really about.
right. And it really wasn't about him um being able to prove any of that. If you
Yeah.
just say the same thing about him long enough, he's guilty. You know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
say it
well, that's
every
how
single day
Operation
for
Mockingbird works. It's like if
right.
you create something like enough, like people start to
Mhm.
believe it.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Saul Alinsky. I think that's like one
Heard
of
of
his
him, yeah.
rules too, of like radicals. Like you
Mhm.
repeat you accuse somebody enough times, eventually people start to repeat it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the way that tactic also works is that if you like you're trying to get your opposition like off balance. So if you accuse them of being racist and all these other things, eventually they're going to be off balance. They're going to catch them off balance,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and they're going to react in a way where you can actually like manipulate. Like, oh yeah, he said something bad about me. Now I can like
Right.
smear him in the
Yeah.
media, and that's
Yeah.
all. It's about the media was that's all the media was trying to do. They're trying to get Trump to react a certain way,
Mhm.
Right.
and they couldn't. He's just like, ah, whatever. You guys are
Uh,
stupid. Like you guys,
yeah.
fake news.
I think I have a
uh,
I have a theory on all that. I think that I think the left and the media, whatever you're gonna call it, I think they were just so convinced that Hillary was just gonna cakewalk it that they
Mhm.
just used Trump as like a, well, let's make sure like conservatives are completely dead. So they just kind of
Right.
latched on him, but it kind of blew up in everybody in their faces. Like
Yeah.
I remember I remember like the day I decided like fuck this, I'm gonna vote for him.
Mhm.
It was just one of those moments where I was just coming off a class and like it was one of those like let's all have a discussion about like how Trump is like so bad kind of classes. And like after class,
Yeah.
I remember just going home and like checking on his name in the fucking ballot thing and just with like a big fuck you to like everybody.
Yeah.
And I can imagine like millions and millions of people just did the same thing I did. Just like not even wanted to vote for him. They just voted for him just to like piss those people off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, honestly, like the on a election night or whatever, when I went to bed, I didn't think that Trump was actually going to win.
Yeah, me neither.
Like, I mean, because media coverage, if you looked at it, he looked like Hillary was like way ahead, you know? And
uh-huh.
I woke up, I was like, whoa. I can't fucking believe it.
Yeah, I think I
It's,
just
it's like I spent the whole next day in shock, where I guess everybody
yeah.
who wanted Hillary was just crying.
Yeah, I think I just laughed myself to sleep that night. I swear.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah, I
had
didn't even care. I was just like, well, whatever. Like, it
yeah.
doesn't really matter. But I got so tired. Like, people was like, well, he hasn't done like people posting things like drawing pictures of him. Okay, that's funny, but like, okay, he hasn't like really proved that he's a Nazi or whatever it is that you're saying.
Mhm.
It's just like people are just so lazy. It's like, oh yeah, he's Hitler. And like a little
Yeah.
swastika on his forehead. I'm like, oh, it's so funny. Like, okay, but it's just so like
How did it
lazy.
how did it get to that? Because I don't remember. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't remember when Bush was in office. Like there was like an immediate like, oh, he's a Nazi. He's blah. They I think they just said he was stupid or whatever.
There was a lot of hate on him, but
Yeah,
not like on Trump. I think
yeah,
that they jumped on the racist thing when he announced officially that he wanted to do the wall thing.
Hmm.
Like, I think that was immediately, oh, he's anti-immigration. No, he's not anti-immigration. He's anti-illegal immigration.
yeah.
Hmm.
Like, nobody's trying to stop people from immigrating here. We're just trying to make sure that people who want to come here legally do. You
Yeah.
know, it's just I think that because he wanted to do things like that, that they immediately deemed him as a racist and white supremacist, and they just kind of elaborated on that from there. But then they ignored everything he did for the Black community and any relationships he had with people, and like,
Hmm.
oh, he only has white people. Well, no, he didn't. He
Hmm.
had other people working for him too. And it's just incredible.
Yeah, he's been consistent throughout his life. Like if you watch some of his videos, like from back in the 80s to the 90s to now, he's been
Mhm.
consistent. All these talking points about having more fair trade deals between China and United States and
Hmm.
Yeah.
NAFTA and all this other stuff, like about being too far right and being too far left, and about
Yeah.
somebody that becomes president would have to have like a strong stance and in order to be president to do good things, but people would not like that. And it's exactly what he like. He actually took a stance on things versus like all the past presidents.
Yeah.
Like he actually took a stance and followed through. Everybody else is
Yeah.
like so wishy-washy. Where like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm only gonna say this because I'm gonna get voted in. Oh no, I have to say now. I have to say
Right.
the opposite because if I don't say this, I'm gonna get voted out.
Hmm. And
But I mean, he's one of the, well, he's honestly, he proved exactly what a president can do.
yeah.
Exactly.
You know,
I didn't think
when
somebody could do what he did. I was like,
yeah,
oh
like
shit,
he
he's
said
actually
he
getting
was,
things done.
no, he didn't get everything done 100% that said he was going to do, but he got damn close.
Yeah,
Stuff
he
that he
did.
claimed he was going to
Yeah.
do, he knocked most of that shit out in the first year.
Yeah. He also kind of like in a fun way kind of exposed like just how lazy a lot of people in government is because like I have a lot of like I don't know, relatives in here and there that work within the government, and
Mhm.
there's some of like the most like kind of intellectually lazy people I've ever met.
Yeah. Well, he was labeled like from the get-go like an authoritarian, right? Trump.
Mhm.
Probably, yeah.
And if you look at historically, because I wanted to like bring up the whole
Hmm.
Frankfurt School.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
vaguely.
Okay, so this goes back. I think it was started. Don't quote me. It's like I think somewhere like in the 30s. But who do I start with? There's like a couple of guys. You see, the Frankfurt School takes place. It started in Germany. Is a school of philosophers that were learning critical theory. And critical theory is really confusing. If you try to read like what it is, it's really confusing. But in essence, what I got out of it is sort of like deconstructing everything that's ever been written before, kind of like looking at it very critically and just deconstructing it. Critical theory doesn't really build anything; it's just like deconstructs everything.
Yeah.
And they also believed in like Marxism. And one of the guys that was studying in the Frankfurt School his name was Herbert Marcuse. And he actually studied underneath this other guy named Martin Heidegger. And he was like a German philosopher. But what's interesting about that was that this is like back in Germany, like I think during the 30s. He was actually, Martin Heidegger was actually a proud supporter of the Nazi Party, and also like a member. And
he was a Trump supporter then.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And what a lot of these guys, Martin Heidegger, he's actually the Herbert Marcuse was studying under him, and then eventually I think he became an assistant of Martin Heidegger, Nazi guy. And Herbert Marcuse, he took his ideas and he sort of like combined that guy's ideas with Marxism. And he was one of the guys that stood out the most in the Frankfurt School of critical theory. And eventually, if we all know in history, like they had to actually, a lot of those guys that were in the Frankfurt School, they actually were Jewish, so they actually had to flee Germany.
Yeah,
just because of anti-Semitism. So they fled Germany and they came to the United States to spread their ideas over here, except without the anti-Semitism. But it's essentially the same thing. But what's
the critical theory thing? Do you know like how like linked that is to postmodernism? Because what you're describing sounds kind of like very much it would go hand in hand.
Essentially like this, it seems like it's like the same thing. It's about the same thing. I think postmodernism is something that I've heard like more like over the last 10 years, more often. I've been hearing it a lot from like Jordan Peterson. But it's just just deconstructing everything and just criticizing everything, not really bringing anything to the table. It's just a way to indoctrinate people when you don't really have anything to build, and like you're just it's basically propaganda to just say, oh, okay, this system sucks. And that's why we have Antifa now, and that's why we have Black Lives Matter, because these kind of ideologies is what fuels them. Like, oh, okay, well, the system sucks. Let's not like help repair it. It's not about them fixing it. It's about them completely destroying it.
Yeah, they're like weirdly obsessed with like revolution and shit like that.
Yeah, and what these Frankfurt School guys did is that they sort of like inverted or like turned redefined fascism into something else. But like, let me.
Do you have like
if you really want to think about fascism, what it really means is the real question to ask yourself. And I forget who it is that said this. I don't know. This could have been Dinesh, or this could have been Anthony James Greger. I'm not sure this is a quote, but he was saying that if you support increasing the power of the centralized state over the individuals, families, churches, and the private sector, so that's really essentially what fascism is imposing the government, imposing their will on the individual, on the family, on the church, telling them, setting the rules, saying, okay, this is how it's going to be done. We're going to control healthcare. We're going to control everything. And so that's trampling on the rights of the individual. So then the individual doesn't have any rights. But what these guys did, they said the opposite. They say, okay, fascism isn't really that. Fascism is this. And the reason, I'll explain what they said in their books. But so they came to the United States, and the reason why they were so embraced in the United States was because they were Jewish um, refugees after World War II, after the whole Nazi thing. Like it was not after, but like they came before, but eventually they were embraced by the Jewish community, and they started teaching anti-fascist ideas, which were actually the opposite. So if I can look at my notes,
Do you
there's
know?
two guys.
Do you know like when they started like going into schools?
See, that's also like I don't like dates, but it was like
Or like
I don't know exactly when they came. I know they were refugees from Germany, and so they must have came like sometime when the whole Nazi thing started happening. Like, oh, we're gonna start killing the Jews. Like that's when they must have like came, because that's.
Yeah.
But sometime after that, like that's when like I know like let me can't find one of them started teaching. I think Herbert Marcuse started teaching in Columbia. I don't know what year that was, but he taught in like he also worked for the government. Herbert Marcuse. See, during World War II. Okay, during World War II, he was hired by the U.S. government to gain insight on how to combat Nazism, not Nazis ideology. And then after the war, Marcuse was instrumental in shaping re-education programs to eradicate Nazi alliances from the people. Together with Adorno, Marcuse also shaped what was considered anti-fascist education in the United States. Okay, perfect. So now I can explain what they were teaching. Okay, so what they were saying was I'm not anti-fascist, but what they were saying fascism was. Marcuse, no, let me start off with Adorno, because Adorno was saying that in his book, he wrote a book called The Authoritarian Personality. And what he's saying is that obedience in moral tradition and religion is a form of fascism. And he's talking about like, and so that follows. So he's saying like, and also sexual repression is what creates fascism. And then his buddy Marcuse, he also wrote a book, and it's called Eros and I think Civilization. And that one was about the whole sexual revolution. So like he was saying that, okay, fascism, the reason why that happens is because people are sexually repressed, and they're holding in all these feelings, and they need to release it. And that's why this was around, okay, I can give you like around the 60s. So when he wrote that book, it was around like the 60s. And it was like during the Vietnam War. And so there's like all those hippies out there doing LSD. So those hippies were vulnerable to his books. They're like, oh yeah, make love and not war. And that's how they got caught up in that, because of his book, because like, oh, well, he was linking sexual repression to fascism.
Yeah.
So that's how they sort of like redefine what it is. That's why a lot of people are so confused nowadays. They're like, they think that just because you're obedient or because you listen to authority, that's linked to fascism, or that it's just they completely just destroyed what it really means. They redefined it. And that's why we have critical theory now.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry I talked so much, but I was trying to
It's okay.
I was trying to condense it to a small, like I only have like a couple of
That's all right.
pages of notes, but that's like as much as I can condense it. But because of those guys, and that's why that's the same ideology that Antifa has, and that Black Lives Matter has. And actually Marcuse, there's like another actual paper that he wrote about called repressive tolerance. And that's where he was talking, well, essentially, to break it down, is he was saying that you should be tolerant of everything except for anything that's sort of like authoritarian, or not authoritarian, but like some like more conservative views. Like you should be you can't be tolerant of them, but you can be tolerant of like everything but them. And he's referring to like the right, or like me, kind of like more conservative sort of like type views. And I think that's how political correctness
Yeah.
came about. So
That's interesting because I think I could be wrong, but like, doesn't Wikipedia, I think, define fascism as like a right wing thing or something like that?
yeah, and that's a problem too. Like
It
a
does,
lot
right?
of like, if that's why I like Dinesh D'Souza, because some of this stuff, like I got it from the Dinesh D'Souza book and also from the Andrew Breitbart book. So
Mm.
those two books are also really good. Like if you guys want to check that out. But Dinesh D'Souza, I think, explains what fascism really is. Like he links it to, because if you really, I mean, look at the Nazi Party, the National Socialist Party. It's not like right wing. I mean, the ideas are like all left wing if you really think
Yeah,
about it.
they're
And
pro.
the
I think
reason
they're.
why it's sort of linked to the right is because they link nationalism as like a bad thing. So
Mm,
nationalism by itself is not necessarily a bad thing. All it means is that, okay, you're proud of your country. But
mm,
what made it bad in the case of the Nazis, like Hitler, was because he was talking about like exclusively like the Germans, like the white Germans, like, okay, it's not white nationalism. And
mhm,
that's not what Trump was talking about. Like what Trump was trying to talk was what he meant by nationalism was that he was trying to bring everybody together in terms of like, not just, okay, I'm just going to focus on black people, or I'm just going to focus on Mexicans. No, he wanted everybody to like see themselves as patriots, as
mhm.
Americans, everybody. It doesn't matter. Like that's really irrelevant. Doesn't really matter. Like he just want everybody to be patriots, nationalists. Like nothing. He
Yeah.
wasn't talking about. Oh yeah, only my white brothers. Yeah, like
Wanted to
I don't
make
know why I'm
America
doing
great.
that accent, but like, but I just find this stuff so ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense coming from somebody
Yeah,
that's
I,
brown.
I remember hearing him speak about USA, and I was just like, is it really wrong that he's super patriotic? Like, what the hell is wrong with
No.
that?
I
Yeah,
mean,
like
the only time
focusing
like
on the American
patriotism can
people.
really be bad
Mhm.
is like when you're like you want to go into like perpetual war, just like, oh yeah, we need to destroy like imperialism. To me, in my opinion, I think that's bad. Like when you want to like bring alleged democracy like all over the world. I mean,
Yeah. It
I
shouldn't be
don't
a
like when
bad
it's
thing
being used like that.
to want to lead your country and to protect and take care of your own people. Like that should not be a bad thing.
Yeah.
There
When you
was
want to
a
protect your like your Western values, I think that's what he wants to protect, Western
yeah,
values. And there's a reason why people want to come to the United States. And it's
right.
only like logical to like want to protect like what you
Right.
Yeah.
And
have
he
in your home in your
reinforced all
country.
of those reasons why people want to be in the United States. Like what's happening now is bringing a lot of people to United States also, but not in the
Mhm.
way that is beneficial to the country.
Yeah, that's a different story.
Yeah, it's a totally different ball game. But yeah, it's just
Yeah,
What was interesting too, I just remembered was that I don't know, have you guys ever heard of George Soros?
yeah.
yes.
Okay, so it's funny because around the same time when these guys from the Frankfurt School in Germany were coming over, there's like another guy. His name was George Soros. He was from I forget exactly, but anyways, he was there during like the whole Hitler thing,
Mhm.
and he was actually saying he was I don't know why I'm started laughing, but he was actually Jewish living in Germany, and he posed I think either as a Catholic or Christian, and he was I think about 13 years old, and what's interesting is that it's hard for me to think that he was actually I don't my conclusion is that he was actually a Nazi,
I
but he
think
says he
didn't he have
because
some? I thought like he kind of sort of was or something like that. Soros.
yeah, because
I mean, he definitely
he
wants
was
to
actually
control groups
helping
of
to
people.
come.
Mhm.
He had like a helper or like somebody like an older guy that he was going around collecting the property of like the Jews,
Mhm.
and so in an interview that he had was it 60 minutes or 60 seconds 60 minutes
Mhm.
he said that he had like he didn't feel bad about like what he did at 13. He's like, well, somebody had I mean, if you guys watch it, like if you look it up, like the George Soros interview, the 60 minutes interview,
I'll
he's
have to
like
look
he
that
had
up.
Is it
or
on
more.
YouTube?
Like he's like, whatever. He's like, well, somebody had to do it. Like I just think about it like in it's like
Is it
somebody
on-
had to do it.
Is it on YouTube?
It's on YouTube. Like I don't have
I'll
the link, but I've seen it.
Yeah,
a
I'll
few
try
times.
to. I'll try to find it and link it up to the video. I'll
Yeah,
check
like
it out.
I'll try to see if I can find it. I can maybe send it to you. But
Mhm,
he says that, and I'm thinking, well, that doesn't make any sense. It's like,
mhm,
and but he was posing as, I guess, like a Catholic, and now he has like he's like a philanthropist in, I don't know where he lives at, but now he's helping all these under the guise of social justice, has all these like NGOs, like these nonprofit or
Yeah.
Mhm.
organizations that he owns. So a lot of the things that he
A lot of money.
funds or like social justice programs like BLM and Antifa and
Yeah.
to me, I don't know, but the conclusion that I want to make about that is like it's really easy for him to just lie. It's like, well, he was probably just like a Nazi and just said he was um a Catholic. I think he just, the whole story doesn't like really add up to me. I think he's
Yeah.
just like lying. And he
Probably
was
is.
always a Nazi, and he just like came over here. Oh, I'm actually a Jewish refugee and stuff like that. I'm like, but you were there the whole time, and then you don't feel bad about it.
Yeah.
To me, it seems that he was like a little Nazi kid in Germany as a 13-year-old, and then he came to the United States pretending to be like a Jewish sort of like refugee. He's like, oh, I had to do whatever I need to do,
This
and
is
he sounds like a Nazi. Well, he's German, like, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it just doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense. Like if you really like study this guy, like the hell this guy's so full of something. I just thought he was like an interesting character that came about. I don't know. I
Yeah.
just feel that a lot of these people that came to the United States were like Nazis secretly, like Nazis that infiltrated the United States. I can, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
if you
mean,
look at
there's-
like a lot of the scientists actually came from Germany.
Yeah,
think,
yeah, I've heard of that too. Wasn't fucking wasn't that like one of the like Captain America villains in the movie? Like
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, I know like there's like a lot of underground bunkers like in Germany that they found like after World War II, and allegedly why I think there's actually Germans that came to the United States. I forget their names. I have to go back to like one of my old books, but I think they actually came over here, and a lot of these underground bunkers that they engineered in Germany, they actually built them like in the United States. So
Yeah.
supposedly we have like tunnels everywhere, underground bunkers all over the place in the United
There's-
States too, because
There's an interesting documentary on Netflix, and I'm trying to remember the name of it right now. But it was basically this whole documentary on this guy that claimed he wasn't this particular person that worked at the camps that murdered all those people. And they were like comparing his ID and these photos and all these documents and everything. And just like the whole process he went through, and he had to like go to trial and everything on whether he was going to be found guilty and then kicked out of the US. And like they show up to come back to get him because they found that he was it's like he was saying he was never in like, is it Trilinka or something like that? One of the guards and stuff there. And they found out like he was guilty about all these other things, like maybe they couldn't prove the one. But they like come to get him, and he's just like, oh, like he can't walk or whatever. So like they wheel him out into in a wheelchair on like a stretcher or whatever to come arrest him. So it looks like this feeble old man, but like somebody had footage of him the day before, and he's walking around and picking things up, and like like it was a big show. But it was about finding like those guards of the prisons and stuff. And
Is it still on Netflix?
yeah, it is. I'm gonna have to find it.
Check it out. All right. Should we start wrapping up soon? What do you guys think?
yeah, I think so. I think that would be
Yeah, I think so.
I guess if you guys want to just jump in with like a final thought on
The Devil Next Door
Civil next door. Okay, I'll try to
Maybe
link it
the-
up to the video.
um,
Anyone final thoughts on college or something?
college
Oh.
education.
I have like one. I wrote this one like the other day when I was like reviewing my books,
Mhm.
and I'm sorry if I was like kind of like all over the place. I
It's
kind of
okay.
like get excited, but then at the same time, I kind of like don't know how to structure like what it is that I'm saying.
Yeah,
So
it's okay.
apologize.
understand.
But the one quote that I came up with when I was reviewing the whole thing, the things that I was reading,
Mhm.
and I kind of like it. It's the present is a direct reaction from our past. Therefore, historical perspective is more important in understanding our state of affairs today. So I think to reemphasize this, I think historical perspective is really important. And I would suggest to anybody that's listening, even if you study history before, try to look at authors that have different ideologies, because there's like a lot of
Mhm.
history that's kind of been muddy, that seems like the whole thing that when we were talking about what fascism isn't really being obedient to like fascism isn't somebody saying, oh, like you do this, and somebody being, oh, okay, yes sir. No, that's not what fascism is. I mean, if you look at it historically, like if you look at what they actually did, like in Nazi Germany, it's
Mhm.
something is it's something different. So I would recommend, like, if you guys want to check out the Nash de Souza book is The Big Lie. I think it's called Death of a Nation, and then he has like a bunch of other books.
Yeah.
Thomas Sowell. He has a lot of good facts and statistics and a lot of direct experiences.
Yeah,
That
I'll put some videos on Thomas Sowell on the
yeah,
description.
Thomas Sowell, man, that guy is such a likable guy and so
Yeah.
cool. Like you guys would love him. Like I'm surprised like not a lot more people like know about him.
Yeah.
He's like I don't
Been
know.
buried for years.
He's been
Yeah.
Don't want that guy to get out.
Yeah, the only reason like I found out about him was actually because of what's her name? Larry Elder and Candace Owens.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, Larry Elder and Candace Owens, they're like
Mhm.
they're badasses too. Like Candace Owens too, she's like an up and coming guy person too. Like she's somebody that I had the pleasure of watching grow over the years, like because I was kind of like the whole like even like when Trump got elected, I was still kind of moderate and critical, like a critical introvert. And I was just watching people destroy each other online. I was like, the hell is this? Like, what the hell is going on? It's like none of this makes any sense. Why are you so um why are you guys so one-sided? Like you guys are not looking at it objectively. You're just like
Just picking
repeating what the media is telling you. It's like, okay,
you're just picking a side like high school or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then so yeah, Candace Owens, awesome. Check her out too. She's been discredited by a lot of people, but all it is like a bunch of garbage, a bunch of ad hominems, but nobody can really um get her on her views. Like it's always like, oh, well, she's this, or her forehead's too big, or I don't know, she's ugly. And she's actually very attractive too, which makes it like
We'll do an episode on like Candace Owen type personality.
oh, sorry.
It's okay.
For another time.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many people out there. So if you look at history, but look at it objectively and look at it from multiple perspectives, not just like from a left wing
Mhm.
perspective, try
Yeah.
to like look at the full picture. And I think that's why people are kind of in the dark. They think that fascism is this like something that it's not. So yeah, get some historical
been-
perspective.
It's been glamorized.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yep.
I mean, to
And
the same point about like looking into history and everything, and you know, education is so important, and education should be preparing you for the real world in a way where you can be successful and you can be independent, not dependent on government. You should be able to survive on your own. You know, in theory, if you're going to college, you're receiving an education that's going to prepare you for the world.
Yeah.
If you don't feel like maybe you're watching this and maybe you're in college right now and you don't feel like they're setting you up to be successful. Start questioning the curriculum and like, so what are they actually trying to teach you? Are they teaching you how to do something, or are they just teaching you to think a certain way? I think it's always so important to just question things that you're told. Like, even if you straight out of the box agree with a statement, think about it, analyze it, because you might be wrong. Or when you think about it, be like, yeah, I still agree with that point of view. Your view can change over the years too. You don't have to always just believe one thing and go with it your whole life. It's okay to evolve and learn new information. And once I was behind certain view and now I'm not so much. And I haven't always been conservative. I was more liberal for most of my life. So I mean, things change. It's just, you have to wake up and actually pay attention to what's happening. Don't just go along blindly.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think we'll just end it there because I don't really have a final thought on this. I think the last episode was my final thought on college. So yeah. All right. I guess we'll see you guys next week. Hopefully we'll have a couple more guests on. All right. We'll see you then. All right. Thank you. Bye.